morning, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining this power-packed discussion around future-ready skills for CxOs and top teams. We have been experiencing major disruption with respect to technology, with respect to world order and influence, demographics, climate, social instability, and the need to develop a strong and aligned leadership has never been more important. And the focus being what we need to do to manage all the disruptions and how can we as organizations achieve sustainable growth. And that's exactly what we do at InspireOne. And some of the things that we have been doing and some of the things that we focus on, but the term of sustainable growth is something which is very, very critical. My name is Ashish Junjunwala, and I am going to be your host for the day. A little about me: I have done my master's in psychology. I've been in the L&D for 28 years. I've managed organization development, leadership development, executive coaching, sales, industry, and technology training in GE, Satyam, Reuters, IBM, DSM, before I got into consultancy. And today I'm the principal consultant and head of leadership practice at InspireOne. Let me now introduce our esteemed panelists. Maninder, she did her English honors from Delhi University and her CHRO program from the Wharton Executive Education. Maninder is the head of HR with Biocon and comes with over 25 years of extensive leadership experience in HR management, change management, talent management, organization development, people analytics, leadership development. And I'm just going to say ... because it's a long list. She is deeply passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, and has done multiple projects in the past and very impressive projects. She has also worked with iGate, Accenture, ICICI, OneSource, FirstSource, and Mastech. Please welcome Maninder Kapoor Puri. The second panelist, he is holding a distinction while doing his master's in HR from the University of Madras. Also 20 years of experience in core HR. Grown up the ranks in Vedanta, started his career as a lead in HR, and today is the Vice President and Deputy Group CHRO at Vedanta. Welcome, Praveen. Thank you so much for taking our time. Praveen spearheads high-impact strategic and transformational interventions at the Vedanta Group. He has been instrumental in continuously setting benchmarks in global best people practices, creating a strong pipeline of leaders from within and strengthening and sustaining Vedanta as the employer of choice. He passionately drives the key initiatives at Vedanta internal group workshop program, which actually is a core program anchored by the chairman and well recognized. Welcome, Praveen. The third panelist that we have is an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. He started his career in 1993 and has about 30 years of core HR experience. Rohit has worked with organizations like Aisher, Bosch & Lomb, GE, Microsoft, Accenture, and today is the designated CHRO for auto and farm sectors at Mahindra & Mahindra. He has managed mergers and acquisitions, divestitures, post-merger integration, separation, organization design, and talent management. What a fantastic mix of the panelists that we have. Welcome, Rohit. Now, let me introduce you to our moderator for the discussion today. After his graduation and hotel management, Sumit studied strategic management, social psychology, and organization behavior from London Business School. Sumit started his career in HR with the Park and the Taj hotels and later joined TMI and Harvard Business Publishing, where he managed organization development consulting, solution design and delivery, corporate learning. And for the last 6 years has been the CEO with InspireOne. Welcome, Sumit, and I hand over the floor to you.
Thanks so much, Ashish, for those introductions. And first of all, my sincere thanks to Rohit, Maninder, and Praveen for taking out time from their busy schedules to join this session. You know, when we were thinking about this session and we were making a list of potential speakers, we could not think of anyone better than the three panelists over here, given the type of experience you have. And I've had a chance to work with, all three of you in some form or the other. And it's been always inspiring to interact with all three of you. I also would like to thank, all the participants. I can see almost 70 of us who've already joined in. Thank you for taking out time. I can assure you we'll have a fabulous 1 hour of conversation. I think with that, we'll get started. We want to make the best use of our time. And, we are talking today about, future-proofing organization by future-proofing CxOs and top teams. And to start with, let's do some crystal ball gazing. There's a lot of narrative around future, but I think sometimes it's good to give future a certain timeline. And what I was thinking is, why don't we think about the world at 2030 to start with? Because that's just 6 years from now. It's a future which is a little bit here and now. I was keen to understand from our panelists today, what are some of the mega trends that you are noticing when you think about the world at 2030? And maybe, Maninder, we can start with you and then hear from Praveen and Rohit. Sorry, Maninder, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Sumit. Thank you for a lovely introduction, very kind. And thank you for inviting me for the session. Sumit, good question. Very tough to really gaze. Nobody figured out that we'll get into pandemic at, when anybody was gazing about 2020. That being said, I think a lot of things will remain similar in the sense they will be continue. And I'm talking about more workspace, remote and in-person working will continue. I don't think we're going to go all remote or all get back to office. I think that'll happen. But I think the biggest change would be the whole transformation in AI and technology. I think that'll be the rapid advancement that one is witnessing with AI, machine learning, automation. I think that'll continue to transform industries and workplaces. This will create not just new business models, but also new skills that will be required at the workplace. I mean, today, companies that have nothing to do with IT are hiring software developers, right? So I think things have really, really changed. Climate change, sustainability will continue. I think CSR will take a huge center seat at the table. That will continue to be the focus because at the end of the day, we'll also have, have to get back to the society and take care of our environment. So I think that will continue. Globalization and geopolitical shift will continue. I think we are aware of the dynamics that are playing across the world. And that will have a huge strategic shift in the way we do our businesses. I think demographic shifts will also happen. The world will not necessarily work out of one country. I think it'll shift in that sense. I think mental health will take another space, in my view, because that is another area that people are now beginning to realize, at least in India, where, there'll be a lot of focus, not just by individuals, but also by organizations. And like I said, remote hybrid will continue the way things are. I think the expectations by employees will change because the Gen Z that will come into our, and maybe then the Gen Alpha, things will have to also change the way we work, the way we operate, the way we interact with individuals. And the fact will be there'll be 4 to 5 generations working because now we are expected to live longer, right? Where everybody's expecting to live longer, expectancy is going to be higher. Which means that, how do you also bring in the whole generation mix? Collaboration within an organization would be another thing. Data privacy will become another battle that people will work with. I think metaverse living is another area. So I think there's a lot of changes that one can look forward to. So I think I've named a few. I'm sure my fellow panelists will have a lot more to say. Yeah, but I'd like to share that.
Thanks so much, Maninder. And I think these are some great points. And, there is a lot of research which is actually pointing towards in the same direction. Praveen, what would you like to add over here?
Thanks, Sumit. Thank you. And before I get into the subject, Ashish, thanks for the beautiful introduction. InspireOne for setting up this amazing, podcast or the webinar, what we call it. I'm sure the key points what we all are talking now will help many of the participants who are here listening, and somewhere if it can help them in running their role or organization better, I think that would make the success of this entire 45 or 60 minute what we spend together. Um, my few take, Sumit, on your mega trend. Of course, a lot of things what Maninder has, what she has already covered, and by and large, for all the businesses, this would become very imperative and very important. Needless to say that, but still, if I need to put it in perspective from the natural resources point of view, or from the manufacturing point of view, or from the large conglomerate point of view, I think few stuff will stand very tall. Number one, lot of thing in terms of the action and execution. While we have spoken about many of the subjects, and then few things the way Maninder cover, and I will also talk about it. हमने बातें बहुत की है, but real action and execution will start happening in next 5 years to my mind, and that will be a big success for all of us and for all the organization, whether it's a small, mid, or large kind of organization. And when I say this action and execution will be in the area of number one, digital AI technology and innovation. I think many of the organizations, they have realized the importance and power of digital and AI, and now they have started learning also. The awareness has been built to an amazing extent. Now people will try to reap benefit out of it, how they can execute and take advantage for the businesses. And that's where we will see a lot of actions in digital and technology, number one. Number two, which Maninder talked about, ESG. Because in today's era, the investors are looking at the organizations who are not only compliant, but those who are going beyond the call of duty in terms of best practices in ESG. So in ESG, how are we ensuring that as an organization we are talking about the net zero carbon, the carbon footprints? What are the kind of green technology, the green product we want to bring? Have we ever heard in our life कि copper तो copper होता है, aluminium to aluminium होता है? Today people are talking about green aluminium. People are talking about green copper. What is that? That's the kind of new technology, digital and ESG, which will help you. And that's where the people and the government and the investor would want to involve themselves. Which are the organizations who believe in this kind of practices, which will help nation at large, which will help country and universe at large in terms of best practices. So that's the kind of action execution we will start seeing. Number three, of course, the focus on the global collaboration. How can we collaborate with the global thing but still take care of our local needs? I think a lot of action in this area, we will see a kind of good momentum. Having said that, few fundamental things जो हमने बहुत समय से देखा हुआ है, जो चलती रहेगी, and people development, coming more on the people side. People development will become a core of the way we run our organization. We would see more and more numbers increasing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. While so far we have talked about the framework, how we want to include them, how do we want to create a framework for them. But now we will see in terms of action, and each organization will see better infrastructure, better number in their place. For example, you take Vedanta. 3 साल पहले तक transgender बात ही नहीं होती थी. Today, as we speak, there are 70 transgender working in my group, and they are doing best of the role. They are into the impactful and important role. Can you believe within 2-3 years so much of action has happened?
Amazing.
And can you imagine the number, or how it will go up in next 1, 2, 3 years? That's the kind of real diversity, equity, inclusion which will happen. And I'm talking about transgender, gender, hiring more and more expats, specialists. That number we have seen. I hired 2,000 people from campus today. 2,000 people from campus year on year. And they come from Kashmir se leke Kanyakumari tak. That's the kind of inclusion I want to build in my organization. I have 30 nationalities working with me in Vedanta today. That's the kind of perspective I want to bring. Jo zero hota tha, today 70 transgenders are there in my company. I want to bring that kind of diversity in my organization. So that action and the trend which is coming into picture. And finally, women in the leadership role. We spoke enough about women in leadership role. Ask that, you take the statistics. There are many studies available. We have a lot of women leaders who have come into the kind of corporate world, but still leadership, there's a gap. We will see a lot of action happening in next 3 to 5 years where you will see women leaders occupying leadership position. So these are some of the trends to my mind which will disrupt and change the way we are working. So Sumit, over to you.
Thanks so much, Praveen. These are some really interesting trends, and love the 70 figure that you shared with us. Rohit, what would you like to add to that?
No, I think Meenakshi and Praveen have actually covered several parts of what I think the future looks like, and have covered it very, very well. Just a few things for a few minutes I'll amplify is one is urbanization. By 2030, about 2/3 of the world population will stay in cities. More of small and mid-sized cities will evolve, and population will move out from the current mega cities to these smaller cities. And in the long term, megacities are expected to contribute just about 8%, of the global population. The rest will stay, in other cities, which are currently small and medium and growing at twice the rate of growth of the megacities. So, to what Meenakshi alluded earlier, the implications are a kind of distributed workforce with expectations on flexibility and virtual working, and business models will evolve around these small and mid-sized cities. So that would be, I would say, theme number one. Theme number two on technology. I think democratizing technology has already been happening over the last few years, and I think affordable AI to achieve a human level of intelligence, and more of a fusion of tech and human with other tech, I would say IoT, machine learning, controlling productivity. The implications of this, I think, again, would be how does one balance the empathy and humanness in organizational interactions and customer-centric innovations with technological advantage. So the technology remains an enabler and an aider to push us forward than be, it's more of a tool to get things done than kind of be the end of things. I also had ESG as a point, and I think Praveen spoke about the climate and sustainability part. I think the last one I would say is around data and privacy. Just the amount of data that is collected on person, product, organization will increase multifold, with an expectation to be transparent of the data collected. And hence, growing concerns about data privacy will lead to stricter regulations and policies shaping how organizations collect, store, and use personal data. So these would just be three things that I would amplify. I really think Meenakshi and Praveen have covered the rest very holistically.
Thanks so much, Rohit. And I think maybe I'll just quickly summarize for the larger group. What we're really talking about as a team is that there are 5-6 big trends, and these are irreversible, right? Whether we like it or not, they are there to stay. One is, we spoke about climate change and sustainability. Absolutely, it's a huge trend. I was reading somewhere that by 2030, almost 50% of world's population will be living in severe water crisis. We can see that already started to happen. The theme 2 is around technology, both the accelerated pace, the democratization and the impact, and the data privacy implications that Rohit, you were just talking about. The third is very clearly on demographics, whereas urbanization is a big trend, but also the median age across the globe is increasing. So more retirals, including in India, over a period of time. The fourth one, is around changing world order, with new nations playing a bigger role. And then there is obviously the mental health that Maninder spoke about, which is really, really critical. I was reading somewhere in one of the researches of World Economic Forum that already the mental health pandemic is on, and already 1 out of 8 people are suffering from mental health issues of one way or the other. Now, this leads me to the second, question, and maybe to this I can, Rohit, I can start with you, and then would love to hear perspectives of others. And that is that all of this has implications on organizations, but also on leaders, CxOs specifically. Now, when we look at CxOs specifically, we feel that for a CxO to be effective into the future, there are 2 frames, the inner game and the outer game. The inner game is really got to do with 2 or 3 key mindsets I need as a leader to be able to excel in this changing environment that we've spoken about. Whereas outer game is a lot more capabilities or competencies, for a lack of a better word. So I wanted to zoom in a little bit on the inner game of leadership. What do you believe, Rohit, that in order to deal with this type of a world, what are those 2 or 3 key core, mindsets that all leaders at a CxO level will have to start imbibing?
I think I was bouncing off this question with my team the other day, and I think inner game is what we can call iOS, the inner operating system, and I think a part of that reflects on what is understanding self, being grounded in yourself and knowing one's value systems and traits. I think is the key to the inner game of leadership. With this clarity and being authentic to yourself, leaders will be required to navigate certain paradoxes. The paradoxes could be in terms of being confident, at the same time humble, creating urgency, at the same time, being patient, being compassionate while being demanding, being optimistic about the future, but also being realistic about, what can be achieved, creating freedom and structure, being selfless and also focusing on one's own well-being, being a risk taker and cautious. So just some of the paradoxes that I think leaders will have to be aware about, on themselves and get a balance on. I think the two things distinct from this that leaders need to work on. One is face the hard truth about oneself and spend time on self-reflection. Give up ego. Whenever we do any organization-wide intervention, and you're helping us with one of that right now, Sumit, on psychological safety. It is about understanding me, myself, understanding and hence being comfortable with it, realizing who am I, and then working on, it's going to be a journey on what I want to change and what I need to change. So the first one is, I think, facing that hard truths. And the second one, I think, is learning to flex a leadership style while staying authentic, to yourself. मैं जो हूँ सो हूँ. I am who I am. But can I be true to my core value system while I flex my style? Because of the pressures that come at me, and the responsibilities that come at me by being a leader. I'll pause there.
Amazing. And I think some of these paradoxes, I was taking copious notes. You're so bang on. We all deal with it as a leader, right? On a day-to-day basis, these 5 paradoxes you mentioned. Maninder, what is your point of view on this?
I think like Rohit spoke, I'll just add a couple more. For me, would be resilience and adaptability would be one, because the world is changing, and are we really being resilient? And resilient talks about cultivating a mindset that embraces change. I think a lot of time leaders don't really accept change themselves, and embracement even comes later. And with the disruption happening and uncertainty at every corner, I think this becomes a very key skill, very key thing that one needs to work on internally, that what stops me from being close to change, what is bothering me, what insecurity am I dealing with, etc. Second, I think Rohit did mention about empathy. For me, empathy and EQ, and I strongly believe this is required in the world, irrespective whether you're a leader or not, because the way the world is becoming so tough now, and I really feel for the younger generation, because you just cannot be yourself while everybody wants to be their authentic self. It is not that easy today, because every word is being measured, questioned, reviewed, and being judged. So I think it is a little tough world out there. So how do you create or cultivate and not take everything personally would be another thing that I think leaders should probably lead from the front and walk the talk so that people can follow. Third would be about ethical leadership. I think very soon the way the world is changing, and when you're navigating complex global challenges, there will be a expectation to manage your ethical standards and integrity. I think that'd be another one, especially during decision making, right? When you're taking any kind of call around how do you do a mix and match of stakeholder management. So I think all of that will be important. I think strategic clarity is also required. What is short-term versus long-term, expectation? What is it that I need to do? Focus on. Another thing would be, also how are you outcome-based leader? Because nowhere the world wants you to work crazy hours of 20 hours a day. It's all about outcome-based management. How are you working collaboratively? How are you ensuring? Because I also believe that, leaders set the culture of the organization. And if and how they behave is how people will behave. And behaviors they accept or they tolerate is what people will assume is the right thing to do. So I think they have a huge, huge role to play in terms of, how they manage themselves. Uh, Another thing would be, for the leaders also to think differently. They will have to be innovative, which would mean, and very interesting that I heard a remark from Rohit about working on creating, safety environment in the organization, psychological safety environment. I think it also helps in being collaborative, because very soon the way world is changing, you will not be collaborating within the organization. Today, the organizations will be collaborating with each other to form, alliances, etc. And it's not about M&A only. It's only about for either for a short term or whatever. And I think everybody will need to really wake up and smell the coffee in that sense. That look, world is not going to be, I'm a CxO of this division. It has to go required.
Absolutely. And I think these are some great ideas. Completely agree with you. I think on the ethical leadership, we are seeing a major shift and a major need. And I think one of the issues that we are seeing leaders struggle with is what we call as ethical dilemmas on how do I segregate right versus right, what I perceive to be both right, and then taking ethical decisions in that manner. Praveen, over to you. Would love to get your perspectives as well.
Maybe Sumit, I think Rohit and Maninder, I just want to endorse whatever they said. And this is something which is very common, irrespective or agnostic of any sector you are in. You need to follow whatever both the speakers have said. And that will be the key for any of the organization. But having said that, if I just need to add on 1 or 2 points, maybe one would be, to my mind, how do we see executives moving into the role of entrepreneurship? I think that will be very, very important in terms of the mindset change. Do we want to continue to remain a kind of executive with a kind of lot of transactions and things in our mind in terms of driving things? Or can we move into a kind of owner's mindset, what I call it, or founder's mindset? That will take you to a different tangent altogether. If you have that entrepreneurial mindset, then you will start thinking in terms of the quality and scale what you need to achieve. That would be something very key to my mind. Number two, we will have to get out of insecurities. Leaders will have to get out of insecurities. And I can tell you, बहुत हम सब लोगों का एक्सपीरियंस है इसमें. Leadership में आते ही, then it's not leader, they are executives, and many of them they are insecure. वो उस चीज से, and I think Rohit was talking about ego. He used that word. This is all something which disturb the disruption what we need in the large conglomerate, or for that matter in any setup. You will have to get out of insecurity. You will have to give a chance to people, those who are better than you. You will have to give opportunity to younger folks who comes with a different new skills, innovative thinking. They are better equipped in terms of digital technology. Are you prepared for that? Can you give your position? Can you give space to them? I think that will play a very big role. And finally, decision making. One will have to take decision the way our chairman, Mr. Anil Agarwal, always says, कि आप लोग जब तक डिसीजन नहीं लोगे तब तक आगे नहीं बढ़ेगी चीजें. मीटिंग करते रहोगे, डिस्कशन करते रहोगे, काम आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा. You will have to take decision, and then only you can look at the kind of scale, size, or the goal you want to achieve. And from current $30 billion company, if you want to become $100 billion company, and I'm talking about Vedanta, all will have to have a very different thinking. It cannot run on the basis of what you were thinking in last 10 or 1 or 2 decades. It will have to be very different if you want to achieve something very exponential. So these are some of the thoughts, but I think I completely endorse with what the panels, they have shared their thoughts, Sumit.
Thanks so much, Praveen. And I think these are wonderful thoughts. I just want to talk about one thing before I dive to the next agenda item. And that is, Praveen, what you were talking about, leaders getting out of insecurity, that is so critical. Because even if I just go back to what we earlier alluded to, the concept of psychological safety, at the core of it, what is it? It's about being comfortable with disagreement as a leader, right? Encouraging dissent. And it really goes back into my own self-esteem and my self-image as a person. I remember when I was younger, maybe when I was 22, 23 years old, I was always a voracious reader. So there was this book that I'm still trying to find, by the way. If someone else is able to do it, please send me a copy. It was called the Self-Esteem Handbook. And this book spoke about what does self-esteem really mean. And it had some very strong practical exercises of just being comfortable with the fact that people can disagree with you, they can have a different point of view, and how can you still have a very strong self-esteem as a leader. So there is a resurgence of some of these critical things, which is the need of the hour. So thanks so much for some of these brilliant thoughts that have come up. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit of a gear over here. Originally I had spoken about the concept of inner game and outer game. And my next question would have been around the outer game. But in many ways, I think some of that question has got answered in some of the comments that we've heard. I think it will be great if we can talk now about what are some of the initiatives that your respective organizations are doing in order to drive this forward. And I think that's where now we have close to 100 people listening to us. That's where they'll also derive maximum value to understand what is Vedanta doing specially, what is Biocon doing, and what is Mahindra and Mahindra doing. And each of these three organizations are so unique. Like Vedanta is doing what we believe as InspireOne, a really fabulous process of talent management, or what I would really call it as strategic talent management and succession planning. It's outstanding. I think Biocon is doing a great job in having an integrated approach towards leadership development. And I keep on telling my team that way Biocon's competency document is created, it's so amazing, so simple, yet so powerful, and so on pause. And, Mahindra obviously has been on the journey towards RISE, but more importantly, Rohit, the CAP behaviors that Mahindra has come out with, then leading on to psychological safety, there's some deep work that is going on organizational development at Mahindra and not just leadership development. So to start with, Praveen, if I can come to you, if you can give us an overview of what is it that Vedanta is doing, some of the key initiatives that we can learn from, that will be great.
Sumit, it's a very deep question, and there are a lot of initiatives for the various the pyramid what we have in the organization. So maybe what I can do is I can just talk about a couple of examples, and the way I indicated at the beginning, it's at the end of the day, it's all about people, and it's about giving opportunity to them. And one initiative which we just we concluded phase 1, and now we have started with phase 2, and we call that program as a Be Desire. I will not get into the nitty-gritty of that program, but what's the uniqueness of that program? And this was one of the thought which came in the mind of our chairman, Mr. Anil Agarwal, and he indicating us to in one of the HR meeting कि प्रवीण आप लोग जो है आप लोग बहुत IJP करते हो, EOI करते हो, and then there are a lot of people who keep participating in those initiatives, and then you elevate them. Can we do a bit differently? Can we ask people what they want to do? Can we run a program and we tell them that आप आगे आके बताइए कि आप क्या करना चाहते हो, and you, without getting into the detail of it, can you give them that opportunity once, just on the basis of not getting into competency technicality, but just look at कि उनके अंदर passion है क्या? Do they have hunger to do this? Basis the passion and hunger, even if they are 60-70% ready, we are completely fine with that. Can you give them that what they want to do? You won't believe, Sumit, one of the unique program, and when I talk about this in many of the forum, people get amazed. We identified, in fact, there were thousands of application people came in to be part of some of the initiative, but we had to filter it to see that which are the 100 people we want to give this opportunity in phase 1. 100 of them, they were selected just on the basis of what project they want to drive, what is in their mind, what role they want to do. And we said that, okay, we are giving you this opportunity, just take it. Just take it. And this has got a kind of amazing energy and vibration in the entire organization. And believe me, when I review the entire program, invariably, all of them are doing amazing in terms of what they wanted to do. And that is adding to our volume, that is adding to our cost. How can we reduce the cost? It is adding to our ESG. It is adding to our the way of, new way of digital and technology they are bringing in the business way of working. So probably I think, we will have to come out of, we will have to become disruptive in terms of giving opportunity to our people. And also, second thing, if you ask me, I think we strongly believe, can we give opportunity to people at young age? Can we put them into decision-making role? Can you put them into the MIP, what we call management in place? Be put them into a kind of, bucket where they take decision, where they are part of the decision rather than just, working behind. That is something which has helped us, very amazingly. You hire people from IITs, you hire people from IIM, but then if you don't encourage them, if you don't empower them to do things, it won't help you as an organization. So I think, that kind of initiative where we got people to work on some very important project, be part of something which can directly deliver toward your business goal in terms of whatever PNL, that is something which gives amazing outcome. And we are lucky that, the size of the organization also helps. For example, I have 100,000 people working in my company. There are about 50, 70 locations. So as we speak, I have 40 CEOs. Generally companies, they don't have that kind of scale and size. So I think मेरा HR का काम थोड़ा easy हो जाता है. Then I have those platform available where I can give people the growth. वो हो ही नहीं तो हम करें क्या फिर? Initiative करके क्या करेंगे? But today, if people have aspiration, I can make them CEO. There are 40, 50 CEOs. There are 40 CHROs in the group. There are 40 CFOs in the group. There are 40 chief commercial officers, 40 chief marketing officers, so on and so forth. So people know that if they have a passion, if they have a hunger, if they raise their hand that I want to do this, they will get the opportunity. But this will have to come from you. And our job as a HR is encourage them, empower them. Don't look into too much of technicality. If they are ready 60, 70%, give them that. And you will see the result for your business. So these are some of the thought. Maybe Sumit, your question was very deep. I can't cover many of the initiatives, what we do for across the pyramid. But these are some of the philosophical thought which help us in building talent for our group.
No, absolutely. And what I really love about the Vedanta framework has been always the aspiration orientation as well as the practicality.
Yeah.
And I'll give a very simple example, not of Vedanta, but of a challenge that another organization is going through. So this is an organization in the BFSI landscape, and I was talking to one of the leaders over there who's been in sales for, a large amount of time. And he was once talking to me that, what, Sumit, I want to move into marketing. Don't want to be in sales, but I don't know how to go by, what do I need to do? And there was no platform in that organization like we desire. See, organizations may be large or small. The role of HR leadership and strategic leadership is to provide that platform. And I think Vedanta has done an absolutely brilliant job with the We Desire platform. I believe it's a case study. And hopefully we get to learn a lot more, on that case study over a period of time.
The work is in progress, Sumit, already. Yes, one of the premier institute, they approached me when I was talking to some of the professors. They said they want to write this as a case study where people can learn, students can learn about it. So the work is in progress.
Not surprising at all. Maninder, would love to hear from you in terms of what is Biocon doing in terms of the integrated leadership development. Sorry, I think you're on mute, Maninder.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. So, look, I will take a little different route from Praveen because my understanding of the whole leadership development along with, overall development is basis competencies. We've tried to, like you mentioned, we've done I think, decent job of creating competency framework. But beyond that, also there are a lot of things that one needs to work on, especially when we are looking to become future ready. I think on leadership program, we've divided ourselves into strategic thinking, emotional intelligence, and ethical leadership. And when we further drill down, we've tried to create programs for every single layer in the organization. And we've created separate programs for women. And we have some very fancy names. There's BioRise, BioAspire, BioEdge, BioElevate, BioLeap, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a few set of programs that we've started depending on the layers. For example, when you have someone who's just starting to be a manager, right, from an individual contributor, the skills required for that individual are far different than what somebody would need who's becoming now manager of managers. So I think what we've done is we've tried to follow the journey of an employee life cycle in terms of the growth. And that is one area to look at. While those are skills that we continue to impart as soon as you get to a new role, etc. And similarly at senior leadership and executive leadership programs, we also somewhere carpet bomb a couple of other programs, right? On well-being, on cross-functional, because for us, it's important that people work together. And we do follow our values and principles very, very strongly. So we want people to be on top of it. So there are a lot of ways. We don't believe that it's all about classroom training. I think it's a combination of things, and you can't just give one shot in the arm and say, "Oh, now you're good to go and life has become perfect, etc." So I think it's all about taking them on a journey, and hence our journeys are at least 3 to 4 months long, even in these programs that I earlier mentioned. Apart from that, what we've done is we've also looked at diversity and inclusion training separately, because we are dealing with, and it's a fact of life, we are a patriarchal country. As a society, across the globe, we do have biases. So we're focusing on unconscious, how do you remove unconscious bias? How do you ensure inclusive leadership? And so on and so forth. So those are other programs that we continue to do. To develop our fresh talent, we've also started a program about 4 years back called the FLDP, which is a Future Leader Development Program, where we hire people from IIMs, etc., and they go on a 2-year journey. That is another program that we focus on. There is coaching for CxO levels. So, and something that, I think my fellow panelists spoke beautifully about was Praveen spoke about the whole program about, how do you get people to do what they want to do. We've all completed our appraisal cycle recently. So we're also culling out data and now analyzing and seeing what is it that people want to do, or where is it that their managers are seeing the gaps. So how do you now cover those gaps? So that will be another journey which will be on. So we've tried to make it holistic as much as possible. But I think culture building has been a big one for us. And that is what I want to do as carpet bombing across. It doesn't matter who you are, but you go through certain programs because they are important and imperative for us to how we work, right? Because culture is about every moment of the day. So the every moment of truth is about my interaction with either my supervisor, my peer, or my team member. So I think how do you make those more enriching, and how are they more motivating for people to go back and create psychological safety? I think that's what we're mostly focusing on at this point.
Amazing. And I think, during my interactions with Biocon, what I've realized is that there are 2, 3 things that have stood out to me. One is, whereas there are different signature journeys going on, the competency model is so strong that it kind of integrates it all. So it kind of gets integrated. Second is, I think all of these journeys have been outcome oriented, with a very strong focus on impact, whether it's behavioral change, how much % of leaders have we built in terms of leadership pipeline contribution, and all of that. And I think the third has been that a lot of work that Biocon also does in leveraging Biocon leaders as teachers as a part of these journeys, which bring in that internal context very, very strongly. So I think there have been some very strong learnings for us, as we've gone through some of this journey along with your team, Maninder.
Yeah, and you said it wonderfully, because you know what? If you meet my CEO, my boss, Siddharth, he's very clear that, look, don't do programs for the heck of it, because then, it becomes like a tick in the box. It's all about creating an impact. So I think which really resonates with me as well, because there's no point, like I said, just getting people into a classroom because, oh, I've completed my hours. What is the impact of the program if you can't bring in? Then honestly, it's hand on heart, we've not done a great job. So that is one. And second thing, I believe leaders really, really have a huge role to play in building culture. So if they are not out there talking about their learnings and what they have done wrong and learned from it, I don't think people will understand psychological safety. If
Absolutely.
they accept their mistakes in public, I think we've come a long way in our leadership journey.
Absolutely. Rohit, would love to hear your perspectives as well. There is so much going on at Mahindra, but would love to know your perspectives.
Yeah, and again, I think various aspects that both Praveen and Meenakshi have spoken, we're working on those aspects as well. I try to bring about a few others, which again, they might not have mentioned that's happening in their organization. One, we spoke about psychological safety, and I think Meenakshi reiterated that as well. So that's a huge aspect. We're starting from the top, from the very top, and and assessing ourselves as what does my team feel about me, and what do I feel about working as a leader myself with my leaders and with my peers. So we started from the top, so that all of us in some ways are both vulnerable in terms of knowing how I am acting and also being acted upon. and also understanding what I can do to help myself get stronger and the others who work with me get more comfortable in working with me. So I think it's in the journey of inclusion where this is one part of our aspect that we've taken as a focus. The second one we're working on is on customer obsession. I think not customer satisfaction, not customer excellence, but customer obsession. And that's something that we just started. And here it's going to be around, how do we equip leaders to really craft customer-led strategies, set touch points and processes to gain valuable customer insights and decode the same to build unique customer experiences to lead the curve. And I think as I go through those meetings, as I look at customer insighting, I'm looking at that as okay, employee inciting. How can I learn the tools of what if I just remove the word customer and put employee there, and then use the entire design thinking framework by putting the employee at the center. What should our HR processes and our HR moments that matter, for an employee be as we traverse the process? But of course, the organization is like I mentioned, is looking at customer obsession from an end customer standpoint, and I'm participating in kind of in partnering with the business on that as well. The third one, we spoke about AI, and I think an aspect for us definitely is how do we build digital savvy leaders? Exposing the leaders to the power and the use cases of AI and generative AI intelligence, and how can they be implemented to strengthen and complement existing processes and systems. So in fact, all of us as the HR team as well, I think it's next month. Yeah, next month we're spending 2 days at the Mahindra Learning University and are exposing it ourselves as HR. And of course, there's a program running on for the senior 250 leaders in my organization that's also on the same lines to equip them, with this. I spoke about leading self, and I think there are leadership journeys. We've got a 18-month, program for, again, the 250 leaders to discover the inner leadership through tools, workshops, coaching, and master the inner game of leadership. And I think on ethics, also we identify senior leaders in business and functions who are ethics counselors. And then they are trained periodically on the statutory policies, code of conduct and so on, and also conduct trainings for them. So again, these are some aspects of, I just want to add on to what my peers just shared, to some aspects of what we're going to drive at Mahindra AFS as well.
Wonderful. And I think, the business results are showing all of that, right? Mahindra AFS continues to be a market leader by miles.
That's what, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. But I think on a more serious note, we've had a chance to work with Mahindra in many ways in the last almost 10 odd years. But I think the work that we are jointly doing on psychological safety, I think what the team at Mahindra is doing is absolutely brilliant. The classic approach that is getting followed over there and the stress and focus is amazing. So it's another case study that I think at the right time, hopefully we'll work on. Carrying on. I know we are, we have around 12 minutes left. So I don't want to focus on my questions anymore because I know there was one more question, but rather than that, I think it's better to be more customer obsessed now, which is our own audience. And let's see what questions do they have, because Ashish has been parallelly nudging me, saying, take some questions. So Ashish, here you go. I'm going to read out, there are 6 or 7 of them. Maybe we may not be able to answer it all, but I'll take a question and then anyone in the panel, please feel free to answer this. So one question has come in from Sapna, who's written, how would you address the challenge that people face at their mid-career level? Upskilling and upscaling is more of a tick mark these days at many organizations at managerial level. Favoritism is not getting replaced with authentic skills and efforts. So any ideas that you have, anyone in the panel around this?
I'll be happy to answer Sapna's question. Sapna, look, upskilling and reskilling, there are 2 ways of doing it. And a lot of times we assume it's an organization responsibility to take care of my career. My request to everybody is, look, take charge of your own career. Nobody's more interested in your career than you yourself. So if you were to really look at your career, you have to figure out what is your trajectory, what is it that you want to do, start working towards it, and create training programs for yourself. And what I mean by curating is about actually picking up what will work for you in the long term. and see where you want to go. Another thing that I've always had is a set of mentors. Try and get coaches, mentors who can tell you where, what, because a lot of times we're also very confused when you're at mid-level, right? Because we've achieved a point where we've got the so-called manager designation and we are managing teams, but next what? Sometimes it helps to have a mentor all the time. I've always had a coach or a mentor in my entire career. I think it really, really helps because they can guide you and maybe make it more personalized for you. It's better to have someone who knows you a little so that they understand what your strengths are and they can then navigate and help you. That would be my view. Now, favoritism, etc., I think I will not want to comment because I think it all depends on individuals' ways of looking. And look, we are not living in a perfect world. There will be favoritism. We have, right? At the end of the day, it's unfortunate that you will have favorites who are actually good at their jobs. Hence, they become favorites. But that is not how people will view them. People will assume that you like people because they're your favorites. Now, that is the reality of life and world and corporate world. So my recommendation would be move on. Don't give too much of importance to that. Focus on yourself. Focus on your skills. Nothing can stop you.
Thanks so much.
I think one thing what Mahindra said, I think it's very, very well put. I think I want to put just one more thing to that is, if the favoritism is something that you feel is a conflict on your values, I think organization values and your own values, I think I've just over a period of time, 30 years I've been working, I just think that they need to be a match. Favoritism, of course, as Mahindra said, was more around the aspect of somebody's very competent, and then it might appear favoritism, but it's the person is top talent. If you dig deeper and say, okay, this is more about picking favorites for the lack of a better word, of competency, then check on the system of values. Check on the system of is there a poetry around the organization which is creating this environment. And if you are from, I assume you're from HR or L&D since you joined this discussion, then you have either the chance to influence that, be the change, and drive a certain journey of people understanding that that's not the right thing, or if you can't do that, then make your choice, because I think values are something that you just cannot you can't stay in the organization if the values don't. That's kind of my experience.
Absolutely. Praveen, anything you wanted to add to this?
Nice, Sumit. I think bottom line है, make yourself relevant, very important. There is no substitute for performance. You will have to continue to perform. Favorite वही बनेगा जो perform करेगा, और that's the way I look at it. And rest of the things, बीच में इतने बड़ी चीजें आती रहती है, छोटी मोटी चीजें आती है, so don't give too much of importance to that. But bottom line is performance. That's what people want. If you are delivering, you will be important. If you are not delivering, you are out of the game. Topic closed.
Wonderful. So I'll move to the next question, and so I'll talk to a little challenge to all the panelists here. See, we have 16 of them. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll have enough time to answer all 16. So if you're okay as panelists, what we're going to do is the questions that we're not able to answer, we'll send it on maybe an email back to all three of you. You can share your answers and then we can circulate to the attendees. Is that it?
That's a good idea.
Yes, so वैसा कर लेंगे, because we have at least I have a hard stop at 12. But sure, I think that's a good idea.
So what I'll do is I'll maybe take up a couple of more questions. Maybe on this one, Rohit, I can come to you. So there's a question that has come up around how can CxOs ensure that their organization remain customer-centric, especially in an era of digital and remote interaction? Since you spoke about customer obsession earlier, it will be great if you can share your perspective.
I think like any intervention, it starts from the top. It's about the CxO themselves investing time in consumer insighting, in going into the marketplace, in meeting customers. It can be any customer at any strata of society. And I also think that I believe that these interactions also should be curated. I believe that, again, depending on the scale of the organization, scale of what you want to do, the impact of the customer intervention that you want to make, there are enough models and there are enough experts in the area who've done this. And I think taking guidance from some of those, making it a mandate, things that you drive, how do you make it a mandate? How do you I always look at the element of three things: the head, the heart, and the wallet. How do you focus on the head, the value of customer obsession in this case? The heart is in the case of the product that you make. How do they impact the eventual consumer and the value that you're creating? For the consumer and having an employee reflect on that. Finding the wallet. I mean, how do we reward initiatives or kind of programs or investments in this area by employees to further ratify the fact about how important it is. So it's just some thoughts on how one can do that.
Absolutely. And I'll just add one quick perspective on that before we go to the next question. What we've realized in terms of driving customer obsession within the organization is to be very clear about how our customer experience will be different than anyone else. And what we've believed is that the brand has to be the lever, because brand is nothing but a promise that we make to the customer. And the actual moment of truth is, do we deliver on the promise that the marketing has really promised? So we feel that to drive customer obsession and a common language internally, organizations have to really clarify what does a brand really mean to everyone else in the organization so that they can deliver an on-brand customer experience. Today, we don't have time, but I think one of the organizations which has been trying to do that, for example, in India, has been Tata Play, very well strong in redefining their brand, and trying to publish that both internally as well as externally. Just we'll take one last question before I hand it over to Ashish to summarize. And Praveen, maybe I'll request you to answer this question, though I know this is a question that everyone can contribute to, but I'm just trying to efficiently manage time. So one question that has come up from Neha, Praveen, is that with increased focus on diversity, how to address the cultural differences and create an inclusive culture? What is your perspective on this?
Maybe, Sumit, the point is, I think as a leadership, we will have to be very open. I think sometimes things has to flow from the top. If you have a leadership thinking that you want to focus, you want to invest in this particular area, rest of the things will automatically happen. It's also about the culture, the way you want to promote diversity in your organization. Do you have the required infrastructure? Do you have that intent in your mind? That's the most important. If you have that intent, automatically rest of the things will fall in place. And I will tell you, the day our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I think a couple of years back in one of his speech during Independence Day, he said ki Nari Shakti pe focus karenge. Nari Shakti will be one of the very prime focus for me and my government. You won't believe, entire CEOs lobby, they started talking about this topic from the next moment onwards. हर कंपनी में ये हेडलाइन बन गई कि हम ये करेंगे. See, the point is, I'm just taking it into positive aspect of it. Something will have to be driven from the top, and automatically things will continue to happen. For example, in Vedanta, we want to promote. We are very, very clear that we want to have, we don't want to benchmark or we don't want to compete with anything. In terms of competition, we are much, much better. If I look into the manufacturing or natural resources, a very traditional, typical metal and mining setup kind of thing, यहाँ पे दिखता ही नहीं आपको, एक थी नहीं. But today we have surpassed, whether it's Rio Tinto or Xstrata or any of the companies, you can name it, who are big player, BHP Billiton, so on and so forth. But the point is about intent. It's not about the number you want to drive. Do you really want to, provide them the leadership role? Do you want to give them the required kind of growth? Are you looking into the remuneration, compensation, so on and so forth? सब चीजें open mind से देखना पड़ेगा. So I think it's more to do with leadership, with culture, and things will fall in line.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I know we have a couple of minutes left. My sincere thanks, Maninder, to you, Praveen, to you, and Rohit, to you for taking all your time. I know your schedules are busy, but thanks so much. We're going to call you on again with those questions and your perspectives. It's a commitment to the audience also that all of your questions will get answered. Thank you for being so excited through the journey. Ashish, over to you for a quick summary. We need to end on time and respect everyone's time.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll pick up some of the key highlights, which I thought were really, really remarkable. When we looked at the mega trends, what really came out was that the shifts are going to remain, the disruptions are going to remain, but mental health is going to take a large space. The way we look at things is going to be very, very different. ESG was spoken by all the panelists, One example that Praveen spoke about was we always thought that there is copper and there is aluminium, but have you ever heard of green copper? Or have you started looking at green aluminium? So those are things that will start coming in, especially in the space of digital AI and innovation. There will be a lot of action that will be seen. Fusion of tech and human, that is something that was spoken about. Data privacy was spoken about. When we looked at capabilities, the inner game and the outer game, what came out was a lot of competency-based execution. How do we see executives moving as entrepreneurs? And one thing that I really loved, Rohit, was iOS, the inner operating system. That is something that was remarkable. And dealing with paradoxes and empathy and EQ and strategic clarity, those were some phenomenal things. And then when we looked at some of the key things that all the organizations are doing, we desire, which was spoken about, customer obsession, and we also heard Maninder talk about development, which is competency based. So those were some phenomenal points. Thank you so much, panelists. Lovely takeaways for, I'm sure our audience would have loved this conversation. The questions that have come, as Sumit said, we'll answer those questions, but this is something which should be a repeat mode. If I just go back to the audience and ask them what is it that you would want more, I'm sure 90% would say, let's do a repeat, let's call the panelists, let's get more learning happening. The thought leadership was so powerful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Sumit.
much.
Rohit,
Thanks,
Maninder, thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Puri.